Frank, when you think Fairway, you think fresh. Is that the winning culture you've tried to create?
Penelope Pineapple, what an unbelievable produce performance. How does your team stay so fresh?
Sunkissed Orange. Is it true Fairway has offered the freshest produce in town since 1938?
What can we say? Our produce is so fresh, we're speechless.
Happy Selection Sunday. We've got a reaction podcast to the bracket that we're going to do right now. And then we will do the regular Williams and Blum pod coming up tonight as well after we see the women's selection show. And we'll do a much more in-depth reaction to everything. My name is Chris Williams, joined as always by Brent Blum. We'll get to this. I want to thank our friends who are sponsoring all of our postseason coverage: Fairway Meat and Grocery, Carl Auto Group, Country Landscapes in Des Moines, and Ames Eye Care. All right, Bloom, Iowa State gets one of these interesting draws where you don't know your opponent right away because Iowa State is a 6 seed. They did fall to a 6. I guess I had them as a 5, but whatever. They fall to a 6. And we'll either play Mississippi State or Pittsburgh on Friday in Greensboro, North Carolina. And the winner of that game would likely get Xavier in the 3-6 matchup, or Kennesaw State is the 14 seed, which I believe isn't William Small, the old Steve Prohm assistant.
He is, and Iowa State played them in TJ Altsberger's first ever game at Iowa State.
Yes. Absolutely, they did. So, okay. Couple other, Blake Hinson, the former Cyclone who never played a game at Iowa State, is one of Pitt's best players. And an Iowa guy, I believe, is the head coach at Mississippi State. So we've got a lot of little small world things. What do you think of the draw? Because I won't lie, when I first saw it, I hated it. I'm like, because it always seems like one of those playing game teams makes a run.
Yeah, it does. I mean, but then there's always a 5-12 game that seemingly goes to the 12 seed. So it's like, honestly, I wouldn't get hung up, folks, on the 6 seed versus a 5 or a 4 seed. So there's some bracket things. I didn't see Xavier as a 3 seed either. So this is basically a 4-5 game anyway.
Okay.
It's just it happens to be 3-6. But from what I really like about this is you playing Greensboro and against a Pitt team or a Mississippi State team are totally different. And those two teams have to worry about each other first and foremost. And so I actually think this sets up well for Iowa State. Trying to prepare for Iowa State on a day and a half notice is a lot because Iowa State is super unique. We've seen it. It's seemingly every time Iowa State plays somebody in a tournament setting, Iowa State's been pretty good because it's hard to prepare. It's a little bit easier when you have 4 days to understand what Iowa State's going to do on both ends. I love the fact that Iowa State gets to play Pitt or Mississippi State on a day rest after a cross-country trip too. So we'll see when that game Friday is. A lot of times they'll protect those playing games and not play that game till Friday afternoon or evening. So we'll see. But I actually think this is an okay situation for Iowa State. And then I love the fact, if you do happen to win a couple of games, that you're going to be in Kansas City. Which would be amazing, being a Sweet 16 in Kansas City, should you get that far, against potentially a Texas. Can you imagine the atmosphere if that would come to fruition? But a couple other things. Iowa State played Xavier last year. You called the game on the radio. Iowa State won. I mean, I think Brockington had 30 in that game. Mm-hmm. That was the game in Brooklyn. And then obviously has history with Kennesaw State. And then Chris Jans is a Mississippi State head coach. He's from Fairbank, Iowa, was a Loras undergrad in the state. So, I mean, TJ's
so he's not a Hawk. Okay.
Right. And then they both have Chipola connections. Him, TJ, and Micah all have Chipola connections there too. So it's a small world. College basketball is. But Mississippi State horrible on offense, elite on defense. Sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Pitt, elite on offense, horrible on defense. They're like a Hoiberg era team, Pitt. So kind of, I don't know what would be better. Mississippi State's an early 2-point favorite, but all in all, again, short rest for those teams, playing an Iowa State team who's going to be on 6 days rest. I think this draw is as good as Iowa State could have expected, honestly.
I think I'd rather play Pitt, just based on the profile you just laid out.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally Pitt is 160th in defense, so they don't really guard, but they shoot it very well. And then Hinson's made 95 threes this year.
Yeah, I know he's been really good.
It's been really good for them, but
he
the
can't
reason
defend, and that was part of the problem. He didn't last at Iowa State is because he didn't want to. He didn't want to work in that capacity.
And then Mississippi State, obviously SEC, very physical, long, athletic, but just they can't put the ball in the basket. I mean, they're like last in the country in 3-point percentage. So 2 markedly different teams. If you're Iowa State, I'm not really sure what the preference is. Either way, they're going to be on short rest, and you have time to prepare and watch that game. Now, they will scout Iowa State. They'll assign an assistant coach to it, but you can't get your full game plan in a day. And so that's why I really like the fact that you actually are playing a play-in game opponent on Friday.
All right, you may have convinced me. you really may have. I don't know. Like you, and you're right on the 5-6 thing. Now that you've walked me through it, because those 5-12 games are always just a nightmare, for the 5 seed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now I got us in the Sweet 16 again. We're good.
Avoid Drake, honestly. Like, I wanted no part of that game for obvious reasons. You avoid, who is it? Oral Roberts. Wanted no part of that game for other reasons. And you get to play, and I think it helps to play a power team, honestly. Like, give me a power team and not one of those really efficient mid-majors any day of the week. I think this Iowa State team is used to the physicality with either side, Pitt or Mississippi State. And yeah, at the end of the day, you got to make put the ball in the basket. But I think Iowa State will be in a good position and should be favored against either.
Good point here by one of our YouTube viewers. Says Xavier is the easiest 3 seed. Texas is the toughest 2 seed. Yeah, you thought that maybe Texas could potentially, sneak into the
one conversation.
The one conversation after winning yesterday. It is interesting just looking through, and I was booking flights and stuff, so this is like literally instant reaction for me. Kansas is the one. They go out west, and it's Houston in the Midwest. I mean, that's way down the road.
But if you honestly give me the best 2 seed in Kansas City, doesn't matter. Like, I'll take my chances.
Beaten,
right? I'll take my chances against Texas with 15,000 Cyclone fans there any day of the week.
Why does Tyrese Hunter keep just appearing?
And they're in Des Moines too. Texas.
Are they really? I hadn't seen any of that yet.
Wow. So they get to go to. So just can't escape Tyrese.
All right. Real quick before we go, shout out to the Iowa State women winning the Big 12 championship today. Really effortlessly. Now, don't tell Bill Funny that. They obviously put a lot of effort, but they were the better
stress-free
team.
Fourth quarter. Yeah.
Honestly, though, it's like I tweeted something similar to this, Brent, that they had such a weird, rough year, but they're the best team in that league now. They're playing like they are the best team in the Big 12. And it'll be really interesting to see their selection show coming up here at 7:00. They should host.
They better.
It's hard
because send an angry memo to somebody.
They may not have a top 16 resume,
but I think
they are a top 16 team. So it's one of those, and they'll get a crowd. So I think they'll host.
I agree. Here's why. Before the Texas game, so that is only going to help your metrics. Iowa State was 14th in net, 11th in RPI, and 3rd in strength of schedule nationally. Iowa State played the 3rd toughest schedule in the country. You should be rewarded for that. You should. I know they don't take into account, but Iowa State's playing good basketball. It's now reeled off multiple wins over top 25 teams in the last 2 weeks. If it's not a top 4 seed, that would be largely disappointing. I think the Cyclone women are, and they'll be in Ames. I really do.
Okay. There's Blum's prediction that will come down here in about an hour and 15 minutes or so.
Or somebody's going to get an angry written tweet from me, and you know
Blum
how powerful those can
Blum's
be.
going to go off.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back tonight. We will not be doing Williams and Blum live, but we will have the full, in-depth, everything you need to know from the weekend, looking ahead to the NCAA tournament. We have a lot more tournament coverage coming up all week. He's Brent Blum. My name's Chris Williams. Blum loves the draw.
I love the
lukewarm.
draw.
We'll see how it plays out.